What's right? What's wrong? How do you fight someone? You have to see when someone's ready to open inwardly or not. If they're not, you have to deal with this just mundanely around the ego and the negative effects or the stressful effects of desires and thoughts and strategies on security and one's life. Okay. If you haven't eaten well, you can't think right. If you can't think right, you're not going to evaluate or make the right choices. And if you're not doing all of those things, how can you ever have confidence in life? How can anyone study or learn from, how can a kid learn at school if there's violence at home or if they're in a war zone? It's not going to happen. It comes later. So this is not, we're just seeing certain patterns here. And out of this, Mercury and Venus to the Sun, it's just that really when it hits and what happens after it, what comes back to it. So there are phases of these cycles you could work on, but and there's material on that, but it's enough right now just to see the kind of stress that's involved between Mercury and the Sun and the kind of stress between Venus and the Sun. And your own, this is challenging you to assess your own experiences. And as you do that, I mean, you should technically be able to fill in the worksheet for each planet, whether you have the aspect or not, as to how you're dealing between these two things or how you see it. When it's stressful, it's going to be more noticeable. It's going to be a bit more dramatic. Okay, from here, when we start going to the Sun and putting to Mars and putting energy out, in a certain way, Mars is kind of like the Sun. Mars is putting energy out, it's dramatic, it's active, but it's really about muscles and use of force. And the Sun isn't about muscles and use of force. It's willpower and radiance and confidence and having the will to do something and the different ways your will works. But Mars is distinctly about putting energy out, of forcing issues, of doing things, of gaining experiences. Not evaluating whether they were good or bad, or you like it or not like it, not thinking about it. It's just doing it and getting it. We have a certain number of experiences for the age we're born at. We stand up probably by 1, we're walking, we're running around by 2. By the time we're 12, we've gone through 6 Mars cycles. Like we go through 2 years Mars cycles of pushing for something and then reacting to that push. So where Venus is trying to attract things and get things, and then trying to adjust what it attracted. Mars is trying to prove it can do things to satisfy you, prove it can do things. And really, it's trying to do things based on the security, based on the thinking, based on the desires of Venus, what I want. If I want something, if I think of something, all of them are influencing Mars to try and go for it. But whenever the security, the thinking, or the values are not loving or clearly aligned with the heart, you go out and get experiences that are going to have repercussions that come back at you. Marrying the wrong person, telling someone you love them when you like them, telling a lie or explaining something in some way and finding out other people are thinking differently. Leaving your education. I mean, we're always getting educated by each day, whether we're in school or not. But there's different frequencies of what's real and different security. So all of these pile up and are affected and pulling at the Sun to try to say this is important, this is important. Well, really they should be, wow, this is wonderful. Think about the Sun, think about, and I feel secure in this light, in this confidence. It's supposed to be the other way around. When it's the other way around and you're feeling confident, you run up on you're feeling confident, boy, it's easy. I mean, so many simple ways you can see it. When I grew up, we were poor. When we were playing football, I had the cheapest little pads and almost no pads on when I played with it. But there's a couple of rich kids that would go and have $200 equipment. This is 50 years ago. You know, have the most expensive equipment. They come in and they're playing with confidence. They got all the best things. And it was like, they're pampered kids. They're spoiled kids. But they're out doing things and they've been supported for it. And they have the confidence. They're into doing things. They've got the backup for it. Kind of like singing, like Venus is kind of like singing. You can't half sing. You can either da-da or it's not going to be singing. Same thing with action. You can be direct in your action, or you can be insecure in your action. If you push and you push wrong, you can break a bone, you can hurt a muscle, you can cut yourself, you can bruise yourself, you can run into all sorts of different harshnesses. And those will diminish your strength for a time. If your willpower is directing, if you're acting in touch with your willpower and your confidence in your heart, even if you lose that strength, the strength will heal faster. It will get better faster. But if you're pushing with arrogance and confidence, thinking you can do anything and everyone has to bow down, it's only going to go so far before the energy runs out. Always energy, you put it out, you have to recharge, whether it's across an hour, 2 hours, or a day or 2 days, over 6 months, or over a year, 2 years. It's a 2-year cycle, so we put out energy for a year, we take it back for another year, but it's going around affecting our chart, affecting other planets. So we use physical energy different ways every 2 years of our life. And it evolves and mutates as our understanding changes, as we learn, as we grow. So it's just standing up and being able to walk and being able to run when you're 1 or 2 years old. Big stuff. Having muscle tone and being strong, big stuff. A lot of confidence comes from, I did that, I rode the bike, I can do this. When you're 18, it's, I've had the lover, I took care of them, it worked well, I rode it well, I have confidence, I can do that. Or I smashed on the bike, I became afraid of the bike, or I smashed in the relationship, I afraid of the relationship. I mean, all the things, we can choose many things to be, like Venus is our desires, our choice, Mars is what we do and how we act on them. But there's many wrong things we can act on. So putting energy out, you can be the strongest person in the world, and it's not wrong to be strong. You can be aggressive, it's not wrong to be aggressive, but if the aggression and the strength hurts someone else, you'll have karma back from it. If it damages someone else, if out of anger you hurt someone, if out of haste you trip, if you're pushing too hard. So a lot of times when people have difficult Mars, stressful Mars, I suggest they do Tai Chi. It's physical, or a martial art, but there's a centering inside of that that gets one peaceful in one's energy and takes away the anger. But anger, judgment, forcing issues, impatience, restlessness, pushing issues, these are all Martian things. Now, if your heart is centered, you're radiating and you're going on anything you think is noble. I'm going to do this, something's noble, I'm going to do that, and something's going to do that. If it's a stressful aspect, you might be pushing on things that aren't exactly noble or aren't exactly ready. They may be pulling you into this battle, pulling you into that battle, hurting other people, getting karma, but all of which affects your social positioning and your confidence. But it's a very different type of effect than Mercury or Venus, because Mercury, Venus, and the moon are inner factors that are how you're living affects your confidence and your purpose and your radiance. What you're doing affects your confidence. But if you're doing something wrong, how do you stop until something messes up? So a stressful axis between a conjunction, a square, or an opposition between Mars and the Sun is aggressive. It pushes too hard. It's a little arrogant. It feels confidence and puts power on the aggression as this is more important. I got to be physical. I got to push this. Don't get in my way. And in one way, if you can channel that properly, it's good. But often it goes to hard sale business, to sports, to a place where you can fight or argue. It's hard to. It makes you a bit of a bully, of forcing your will. A woman can do that as easily as a man can do that. Pushing issues. We got to do this. We got to do that. But why are we pushing? Usually because of our Venus of what we want. I want to be satisfied. Do this. But if you force it, you can spoil the beauty. If you force things, you can make things coarser or make things be yelling at someone instead of just talking and communicating with the Mars. That's Mars to Mercury, to the moon. If you're not nurturing right, you're going to be weaker. If you don't feel secure, how do you go out and do things? You overcompensate. The Sun to Mars is like an empowerment, but a stress around anger and force. In one's heart, it's easy to say, I got to fight this. I have the confidence to fight this. This is wrong. That's impatient. That's wrong. So the empowerment of the Sun The Mars comes into it, it gets interpreted in action, and these people are competitive, active, but in a stressful way. It's difficult to be close to them. It's hard to be peaceful. It's hard to just let the sun shine when you're worked up about something. You got to fight this cause or fight that, or struggle for this or struggle for that. Whoa. Like, I could be married to you, but don't tell me what to do. I'm doing this, I'm doing this. I'll see you later. I'll be back in a couple of days, whatever. Like, you're just doing. So there's a will to dominate when Mars and the sun is there. When it's the stressful aspects, there's always a will to dominate between the sun and Mars. It's one of the factors that we have. But when it's stressful, the ego reinforces the will of the ego reinforces the aggression to dominate and becomes too strong rather than sensitive. It creates wars and battles and forces reactions more than peace. Or causes accidents or falls or breaks. Boy, you get humbled if you break a leg or you hurt your back or you push something and you have to regroup. You think you're never going to get back together and you have to regroup and build up your strength again. It takes willpower to keep going and have confidence even if you've been handicapped. But usually, if you're handicapped from Mars, if you're pushing too hard, you're asking for it. You're asking for people to push back. You're looking for a fight. You're looking for a competition. So in terms of receiving satisfaction in sexuality, that's Venus. But in terms of trying to prove I can do it, I want to do more. I'm doing this, it's oversexed in terms of overperforming or over-wanting with the sun to Mars. So one is how much you're prepared to do to satisfy someone. The other is how much you're prepared to satisfy, how satisfied you have to be before you do anything. That's Mars to Venus. But we're going to get to all of these, but with the Mars to the sun, it's really difficult to be at peace, to be noble, and to be strong without hurting anybody. But that means it can be a warrior's chart and we live very nobly. There's something wrong here, I have to fight it. I have to take a stand here, I have to do something to fight an injustice. That's when the Mars is guided by Jupiter and Saturn properly. But really, it's all about what's noble in heart. When you're fighting a cause, you tend to forget, if it's a war, you demonize the enemy. They're just people too.